Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to episode number 155 of the Beyond the Ring with Big T Wrestling podcast. For today, today is Monday, November 5th, 2018. And I gotta tell you, alright, from right off the bat, guys, before I introduce our guest, I understand Monday Night Raw might be going on for all of you wrestling fans out there, and you guys are probably sitting back and watching Monday Night Raw right now, but I'll tell you one thing. I got something here special for you guys that's better than Monday Night Raw. And I would like to introduce our guest for the night right now on episode number 155 of the podcast. Everybody, please welcome to the show a former WWE referee, and back in the WWF days as well. We have referee Jack Doan here with us. Jack, how you doing?
Good, how you doing? Thanks for having me.
Hey, you're welcome. Thank you so much for coming on the show. I appreciate it.
No, not a problem. Always like talking about the good old days, that's for sure.
Believe me, I love hearing stories on it, and I love talking, I love talking to guests, especially about this era, because this is my favorite time in the business. So I want to start off with you, Mr. Doan. First off by asking, because there comes a time in everybody's life where they either, what I experienced with past guests, there comes a time where they either fall in love with the business or they just kind of, it just kind of comes into their life and they fall into it. So what I'm going to ask you is, around, how old were you approximately when professional wrestling came into your life and you thought, you know what, wow, I really love this stuff. I got to do this. I want to be in the professional wrestling business somehow, some way, in some capacity.
Well, I'll be truthful. Of course, back in the day, you knew the big names like Hogan and all that, but I didn't grow up a wrestling fan, and my uncle was, and I remember him getting the pay-per-views and watching it, and so it was kind of unique to end up in this business, but what kind of happened, I'm from Danville, Illinois, and there were some local guys driving semis for the WWF at the time. And then there was a couple little small trucks. They looked like baby semis with sleepers, and they carried the actual ring. And so I got to be friends with one of the gentlemen that drove the truck, and his partner got a little DUI problems. And so after about a year of me and him talking, he's like, hey, I need somebody to go on the road with me. And to be honest, I didn't know much about the business at all. And it's kind of hard to being, not growing up in the business and being a fan. It took actually probably a couple years for the guys to get comfortable around me because I was kind of that outcast. But, from the first night of working with them and watching the show and being part of it, I instantly fell in love with it and got to spend 22 years doing what I love. And I miss it every day, to be honest with you. Miss it dearly.
And 22 years, that's a long time, to be in the business. A lot of guys, no matter what position they hold, there's not many people that go past 2 decades in the wrestling business. They've usually moved on before that amount of time has elapsed. So,
I think about...
Go ahead, Mr. Doan.
Okay. I think about the time I left, when they didn't renew my contract, it was probably Mike Chioda, who's still there, Undertaker, maybe a couple others, but I was probably 4th or 5th people that was still active there after all that time. We had gone through a lot of faces, so... Very blessed to have had that career.
Oh, and it was an incredible career, if I may say myself. Just from watching some of the matches that you got to be a part of, and actually, you got to be a part of the business. And honestly, I would say the greatest time throughout that whole Attitude Era and Ruthless Aggression era. I mean, at least for me, and I know a lot of fans that, watch professional wrestling and keep up with the product, those were their favorite years. I still love it today, but those were my favorite years.
Sure, sure. I think it's like not like the NFL, now with all the rules and protecting the quarterback and that. People still like to see, when the quarterback got knocked out of the game, this and that. And I understand the wrestling business. It was a fun time. It was definitely more than a rated PG-13. It was more of a hardcore adult business, but you got to move with the times, and once you got stockholders, and you got to answer to people, and you got sponsorships that and it became more family orientated, kid friendly. The video games, the merchandise, getting into these department stores with all that. So it's something business wise they had to do to stay afloat. And if you look at the numbers, obviously, when they release the quarterly statements, the business is bigger than it's ever been, which is hard to believe. Great talent. I mean, the talent they have is top notch, and probably the best they've had athletic wise. But if you think of the big names that have gone through that have drawn a lot of money, it's really unique where they're standing right now. I knew at one time, and maybe I'm wrong, they were up to like worth $3 billion, which is unbelievable after all these years. So to stay afloat, you got to move with the times, and I think that was part of it.
You know what? I agree with that, and I've heard a lot of things as to why the business changed as well, and a lot of things, it has to do with the stockholders, like you said. That's a big part of it, and just crowds have changed now. I'm sure you can tell if you ever turn it on your television nowadays. The crowds are different compared to back then, but I'm already looking here, Jack. We got a busy live chat, and I didn't even have to tell anybody that they could ask questions if they want. I already got a few coming in. Most of the comments that I do have is people are saying this is much better than watching Monday Night Raw.
Well, I appreciate that. One thing this is from my heart. I truly enjoyed the best part of the business that I really enjoyed was, of course, I did production too, so I was always there early setting up the ring. That was part of my job. I set up the ring, helped build, the barricades around, and did it for TV too, and then refereed. So I basically had about 3 jobs when I was out there, but I loved being there early, and when the fans got there, to be able to go out there and talk to them. That really was probably the greatest time, and what I miss the most is their passion for the business, their ideas, what they like, didn't like, and that to me is what I miss most. And especially like when you have special need kids out there, to be able to talk to them, and you think you're making their day. It's actually, I mean, it made my day to be part of that. And so that was a great enjoyment of the business is. And I used to love when the guys would go over and give out the autographs and stuff, and spend a little bit of time with the fans, because without the fans, obviously there is no WWE.
I could honestly say, Jack, when you just brought up the special needs kids, I could honestly tell you that the business does really, really make an impact on the special needs kids, because to be honest, I'm one of them. I have cerebral palsy. I was born with it, and
Oh, I did not know that.
yeah, the one
It,
thing that got me through was the professional wrestling.
bro, that's awesome to hear, man. That really is. And I tell you, people. I mean, now with social media and all that, they get to see it, but it was going on for years. They have no clue. Of course, now they do, but the WWF, WWE at the time, what they gave back, not only money wise, but the actual time that wrestlers spent with the Make-A-Wish. And, I mean, obviously, John Cena, I think he's probably tripled any celebrity in the history of Make-A-Wish. And it's something they truly are passionate about and enjoy doing. And I used to kind of a lot of times sneak in there and watch it because, I mean, there's no greater joy to see the smile on, the kid's face and the adults, the parents. And but, now you get to with the social media, see that aspect. But, I mean, that's been going on since day one. They've always have been so much a part of, so many charities and stuff. It's that company takes in a lot, but I'll tell you what, they give out a lot.
They definitely do. Whenever they do something, I see the Susan G. Komen stuff, that they do every October. Now the Connor's Cure stuff that they do every September. They just do so much, and it really is a great thing to see.
Yeah, and I tell you, one of those stories, and I'm not going to mention any names or who it was because that's personal, but I had a buddy of mine who lost his father to cancer, and excuse me, he didn't have insurance or anything, and one of the wrestlers went and completely paid for the funeral, no questions asked. So these guys are unbelievable, and once in a while you might find one that had a bad day like we all do, and it's a shame that they get labeled like that, but they truly are special people. And man, when I found out that, I mean, that's something, he just did out of kindness of his heart. And he's no longer with the company, the superstar that did it, but that's an unbelievable gesture.
Oh, that's awesome, though. It really is nice. I'm looking here, Jack. Actually, I see a question in here. Let me scroll up to it. The question is, what was your best moment?
I tell you the best. And me and you talked about that, and I don't try to. There's so many matches I was a part of and so many shows and so blessed to be, I went overseas, to Australia and China and Tokyo. It's just every year, I did the European tours but the match that will always stick out in my mind was Kurt Angle and Chris Benoit, and you have to help me. It was in Houston, WrestleMania.
WrestleMania 17.
We were sitting there. What was it?
WrestleMania 17, yeah. And, I believe it was April 1st, 2001.
I told you got to help me out because I've had people before come up to me and, you need to write a book. I said, I can't remember what I did yesterday, to be honest. So, but once when I get talking, things start to pop up, and I remember. But because I do enjoy talking about it. But that match, we sat down with Pat Patterson, and Pat had this idea. He said, the first 10 to 15 minutes, I want you guys to go out there and amateur wrestle. And they looked at each other like, Pat, they're going to crap on this. He's like, I'm telling you, you go out there and do it and watch their spot. And it took some convincing to get Kurt and Chris to agree to that. And I'll tell you what, when they locked up and they did a few of the amateur moves and they both got to their feet, the crowd went crazy. And I think they probably went maybe, it's been so long, 10 minutes doing that, and the crowd loved it. They ate it up, and then of course we went into the match and so on. But that moment, the appreciation not only for the athleticism that they had and their background in wrestling, but the fans appreciate it. And and that was Pat Patterson's idea, and those guys questioned it, and it went over like $1 million. I think one of the matches that probably stole the show, and I forget how long we went. I think we might have went 40 minutes.
Yeah,
not longer, but
it was a rather long match. I do remember that it was a rather long match, and you know that was like when Kurt Angle and Chris Benoit when they did that in their match. That was like one of the rare times in the Attitude Era that you would see, just amateur wrestling like that, and I remember I popped for it too. I loved it. I loved it. I'm like, this is really going back. Like Angle's going to his Olympic roots, and Benoit was really bringing that out. I mean, these guys went. These guys had an amazing match, and yeah, they went about 10 minutes doing
Yeah,
that.
yeah, it was. It was a lot of fun, and as you get in the match myself, you kind of you're focused on that. You block out enough, but I remember that part, just listen to the crowd and getting the goosebumps. And I've been fortunate. Can't go back on all of them, but I've opened up a lot of WrestleManias, the opening match, and man, after the, usually either the God Bless America, the national anthem, the outside when the Jets fly over, there is no bigger rush and the goosebumps that I would get. I mean, I can remember standing in that ring when the Jets would fly over and just tears welting up my eye because it is, it's the Super Bowl of wrestling, and there's nothing better, to be a part of it, and then be able to open the show. It's what people have been waiting all year for, and them are some of my great memories. You got to help me with this. Mankind, Undertaker, when we were in Cleveland for a pay-per-view, and
SummerSlam
that's when
'96.
there you go.
Boiler Room Brawl, the first ever Boiler Room Brawl. And that was in my hometown. That was in my hometown of Cleveland, Ohio. But I didn't end up going because I was only 8 years old at the time.
What year was that?
1996, August of '96.
That's it. Oof, man, I was a baby then. I'm an old man now. But I tell you, we know the wrestling part of it. It's entertainment. It's a show. Blah blah. But the thing about that match was they did not tell me the finish to it. I had no idea Paul Bearer was turning on Undertaker. When it happened, I was like, "What the heck just happened?" I mean, they kept that such a secret. They didn't even let me in on it, and I was as stunned as all the fans watching it, and I was like, okay, what am I going to do from here? So
were
I caught
you
on real quick that
were you
that
basically
got turned
just
on.
were you basically just instructed like just go out there and count the fall, and that was it? Because I've heard that from I've heard that in stories before that sometimes the referees are instructed to just go out there and count the fall.
Yeah, which is I mean you got to be part of the show, or you don't want to definitely mess up in a match when these guys have worked 30 minutes their butt off, which I've unfortunately been a part of a couple botches in my career. That's pretty embarrassing, and then you go back and you have guys that are upset, and you're upset with yourself because you're out there with the best athletes and they expect the best out of you. And I always figured if you aren't good enough to do the opening match, to the main event, to the girls match, anything in between, you should never be up there. If you can't do every match on the when you reach that level, you should be able to do any match up there, from the opening match, the main event, the mid cards. And but that night, no, I wasn't told the finish, but I caught on real quick what was happening. And I don't want to get into too much of we know it's entertainment, obviously, the name and what goes into it, but I don't want to give away too much of fans still need to enjoy that part of it.
Oh
and,
yeah.
And I too. There was when we do Raw or pay-per-views and stuff, I didn't want to know the end of the matches. I wanted to be obviously the ones I was doing, but as a fan watching the other matches, I never wanted to know what was going on because I wanted to be as surprised as the fans were.
Yeah.
So because
You want to be able to
You know,
enjoy it while you're back there.
yeah, yeah, because I not only was it my job and my career, and I was a fan. I love it. I still love it today. Miss it dearly. As far as that goes, and the the thing is the athleticism, how good of athletes these guys are, and nobody will ever, unless you've been in the business, because I used to hear it all the time. The guys say, "Oh, I could go out there and do that." No, you really can't. These guys train a long time, especially now with the training center, and it takes so much. I mean, you got to be able to act. You got to be an athlete. You got to be able to cut promos. You got to have that it factor. You got to be able to not seriously hurt someone. I mean, it's just not about being a guy that goes into the gym and then all of a sudden he can go in there. And, years ago in the back, you'd had guys that could go in there and get away with some of that stuff. But nowadays, I mean, the last 20 years, you've got to be a great athlete to do what these guys do. It's not always about being the biggest guy. Obviously, you look at Jeff Hardy and Rey Mysterio and even Edge. These guys weren't big, but they had that it factor. They had that what people wanted to see. And they grasped onto and so that was just all the great part of the business. And I want the fans to understand how talented these guys are. They're very smart individuals, and because wrestling, they get that stereotype and that stigma, and that's one thing I always wanted to know. When I would get into it with some people, I'd say, I don't think you quite realize what actually goes into not only a match, but year round, the traveling, being away from home. It's a brutal business, but you're rewarded. Obviously financially, a chance to go out and be on TV and entertain millions of fans. It's a great business, and it's amazing to this day how it's still striving, and still growing.
Oh, absolutely, and it's just gonna get bigger.
Sure, and the thing is who you got behind the scenes now. You got guys that have so much talent, with Triple H, obviously, he's a great mind for the business, and Stephanie, and then you got Road Dogg, is one of the big agents, and that guy is unbelievable, put together matches and the smart business. And then you got Shawn Michaels, one of the greatest of all time. Now he's back there at the training, facility. I mean, you look at the talent that is still, around helping these younger guys. I mean, you can't help but, this business grow. These guys giving back to what, made them superstars. And that's what it's all about is and it wasn't always like that. There was, in my early days, selfish guys that, didn't want to help the mid-card or low-card guys and, want to just do their own thing. And, I mean, that's, my early days. It's been great, the last 20 years. But, now to see, that training facility down there and the rings. I have never got to go to the new one. I was released before then, but I went to the one before that, Tampa, and it was really unique, the what they have now. The business definitely will just grow and grow.
Oh, and you know what? I could only imagine where it's gonna be another decade from now.
Sure. Oh yeah, yeah, definitely. Especially like I said, you talked with the video games, they're only going to get better, and the merchandise, and I mean, it's just incredible how and new talent will be rolling in. There is great talent right now from A to Z, but there's going to be that next John Cena is going to come around the corner and blow this business up again. There's going to be another Rock there'll never be someone like The Rock, but there's going to be that next guy that's going to take wrestling back up to a new level. Talent-wise, athletic-wise, female and male, you got great superstars, but I'm still waiting on that next guy that's got that complete it factor that people will spend money just to go watch him walk down the aisle. You know what I mean? Guys like in the past, The Rock, Stone Cold, Undertaker, Shawn Michaels, Bret Hart. Those guys had that unique it factor about them, and there are obviously guys people love now, but I still think that next one's coming. There's going to be a big name that's going to break loose here soon.
I absolutely agree 100%. I think it's coming too because it always happens at one point or another. It's not like we're gonna be here another 10 years from now like, oh, when is it gonna happen? It's going to happen.
Yeah, it's a matter of time. And I hope Roman Reigns speedy recovery. If anybody that is in contact with him, so I loved Roman when I was there. I think he was probably pretty much just maybe I was probably a couple of years with him, but what a great individual. I know he's got that yay boo type thing going on with the fans, but as an individual, he is a great person, great heart, loves the business, and I hope he can kick this Kimia's butt. And I know he's going to get 100% support from the WWE and from the fans, and that's going to push him through it. But I was sorry to hear about that.
Yeah, that was an emotional night.
I think he's on the verge of having that it factor. I think although I like to see him turn heel and then let the fans turn him back, but that's just my opinion.
Yeah, kind of like what happened with The Rock.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was another good story. I did The Rock's first match ever when he was Rocky Maivia. I got to do his first match. Quote me, I think it was at Madison Square Garden, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, Survivor Series '96 in Madison Square Garden. Yep.
Yep. So yeah, it was another unique moment. I got to do that.
I'm looking here, actually. Got a lot of people saying hello to you. Hello, Mr. Doan. A lot of people, pretty much commenting on your career, saying what an experience, that you've had. Getting a lot of support here. I like this, guys. Keep it up. Keep it up. Let's see.
I appreciate it, definitely. I miss the business. I miss the fans. It's great to be home. I have a daughter that's 17, one's 14, so it's nice being home. They're both really good athletes. Actually, I'm sitting with my 14-year-old now. We just got back from the gym, getting her ready for her travel volleyball. We just finished up her high school freshman year, and so now she's going to do travel. So she's keeping me in shape and kicking me in the butt, and we're getting her ready. So I'm at 47. I'm still trying.
Hey, that's all you can do is keep going.
Yeah. With the business, that was the sacrifice you made. Is I was on the road 220 days a year, so you were away from home, you were away from family and friends and your kids. But on the other end of it, you were financially able to support them and give them a good upbringing. But that's if you ever that's one thing for the fans. If you ever run into one of a superstar and they're having a bad day, don't take it personal because everybody has bad days. And that's one thing that would bug me when someone would approach and they oh, he's a jerk. And I say, yeah, you really don't know him because he's not that way. But so always understand they have things going on at home. Personal things going on in their life too, and sometimes they get caught up at the wrong time, and I don't know a lot of the newer guys now, but I know the guys I worked with. They really appreciated the fans, but sometimes they're having a bad day or they got bad news from home, and all of a sudden the fan catches them, and I hated that part of it, but I just want as these fans out there when they I hope they understand that they all have bad days and we all got stuff going on in our lives, so.
Yeah, and
But
I was one of them that
go ahead.
always respected, their. I always respected their privacy, because I've been to 7 WrestleManias myself, and sometimes, like if I see them on the street, because I've saw them on the streets before. If I see them on the streets with their families, I don't even bother. I don't even bother because I
Yeah,
just don't feel it's right. But
yeah, yeah, yeah. There's it's time. You know, this is a true story, and I'm not name dropping here, but it was me, Chad Patton, was still referee for him. Actually, I got Chad on a couple years after I got on. Him and my sister have a kid together. I can't think. My nephew's 22, 23 now, but they had a kid together, so I got Chad on, and he's still doing it. God bless him. And so we're sitting down. We're with Triple H. We're with his bus driver, and one other person was sitting with us. And a lady came up, a fan, and she wanted Triple H's autograph. And he was very polite. Said, "When I'm done eating, I'll sign whatever you need. When I'm done eating, I don't have any problems." She said, "Okay." She pulls up a chair at our table and sits there, was waiting for him to get done eating. And I was like, she didn't quite understand what he was saying. He'll sign it when we leave the restaurant, but
yeah.
that we kind of all looked at each other like, okay, who pulled the joke here? But so it, good times.
I got a couple of questions here. Let's see from fans. I'll start off with this one. Do certain referees?
Okay.
Has there ever been a fight in the back between certain referees?
Uh, man. Well, I don't think. We've had our arguments. Me and Earl Hebner, we had a few arguments over some stuff. It's just silly stuff, but never anything physical. Man, there was, for the most part, when WWE, WWE at the time, or what it was, bought WCW, and those referees came over, there was a little tension, a little hostility. Now, Charles was the best one that kind of blended in with us. As we're out there building the ring and stuff, he jumps right in to help. And then, eventually Nick Patrick got along with him real well. Billy Silverman, I forget, he didn't last too long. Mickey was it Mickey J, right?
Yep, yep.
He kind of did his own thing. He was, had been in so long the business. He kind of, ran with the boys a little bit with the wrestlers, so didn't get real close to him. But now, I don't, as far as I don't think, we've had our arguments, of course, but never got to the part where anything physical happened. We all definitely knew we were expendable. Although, at the time we were the best in the business. You can be replaced any time. So, things. Yeah, of course, things got heated, but we had more fun than anything. Kind of pulling jokes on each other and stuff. So.
All in all, sounds like a pretty good atmosphere back there.
Yeah, it was hard at the beginning to try to blend in. See, when I first started in '91, wrestling was, almost like help me out here, the Big Magician,
Oh,
David
David Copperfield.
or what's his name? Copperfield, Magic. There's always a trick to it. You know what I mean? It's the guy's not really doing what he's doing. With wrestling, back when I started, it was so close knit, and although you knew, but it wasn't out that it was entertainment or choreographed or stage. So when I first started, it took me about 2 years to be able to dress in the locker rooms with the guys because they didn't want some new face coming in, knowing everything, and then walking out and saying, "Oh, this happened and this happened." So my first couple of years, I dressed in a lot of janitors' closets, and it took a while to fit in, which I paid my dues. It's not like that anymore. Guys get comfortable real quick, but but it was good too because I respected the business more. I had more respect when other new guys came in. It wasn't an initiation. It was just these guys, they're like a fraternity, and they were protecting, what they were building, and when they had to switch it over to entertainment, a lot of the old timers were like, "Oh, this is going to ruin it. This is going to ruin the business," and what it did was it kept that average wrestling fan that how it was, even though you watched it, there's always someone that said, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe you watched that stuff. It's so fake," which it's not fake. Because I said, if you pick someone up and slam them, that's not fake. If you want to say it's staged or choreographed, that's one thing, but it's very physical. So it took that average guy that was a wrestling fan, but sometimes didn't want to admit it. Once when it came out that it was entertainment, it's, a live production, basically a show, it actually made the business bigger, and people were, wearing more wrestling stuff and admitting they were wrestling fans, I remember being on of course, we always, I wore a lot of, we had WWE shirts we wore, collared shirts, and I remember being on a plane and a businessman, he's in the suit and he's talking, he's like, "So what do you do?" And I told him, and, he's kind of a little bit standoffish, like, "Oh, wrestling, this and that." And about an hour into the flight, he's naming off all the wrestlers. He's asking me about this. He's asked me about that. I said, "Oh, so you're one of those guys." I said, you love the business, but you're kind of embarrassed that because, you got people telling you how fake it is. He goes, "Yeah," he said, "I love it a lot." But, and I think that's the part that, the guys, the old timers were afraid of. It's like, we're going to expose the business and say that it's predetermined. And actually, obviously, by the numbers and the ratings, it took off, And not to say that, obviously, if you look at the history of surgeries, and these guys, they get hurt, they're beat up, their bodies are beat up, to get conditioned to taking these bumps. Because I will make one thing clear, because I built that ring. It's not a trampoline, It is, steel frame with 4 beams that go one way, 8 that go the other, and then 26 planks that are about 2 inches thick. I forget how many inches wide because I built that thing so many times, and then probably 1.5 inches of foam on top of it, and that's it. There's no spring underneath. There's no. I mean, it's they're a lot better rings than what they used to be, but so the beating that these guys take is legit, and the guys get punched and by accident, and they get slammed wrong, and so it's a very, very, very physical form of entertainment.
Oh yeah, they definitely take their bumps, and their body does take the abuse from it. That's for sure.
Yeah, and actually I heard, and I don't know if you might have been up to date. I heard Triple H might have tore his pec. Have you heard anything after that?
Yes,
I heard
actually,
over at
yeah, at Crown Jewel when they went to Saudi Arabia and they had DX and the Brothers of Destruction. What happened was Shawn Michaels was hung up in the Tree of Woe in one of the corners of the ring, and then Kane Irish whipped Triple H, into Shawn Michaels, and then Triple H flew over the turnbuckle the way Ric Flair would do when he was Irish whipped in the corner,
Oh yeah.
and he fell out to the floor. As soon as he hit Shawn Michaels and he fell out to the floor, he immediately grabbed at his pectoral muscle, and then Shawn Michaels got thrown out of the ring, and Triple H immediately went over to him. Shawn Michaels put his arm around him, and they were talking, and Triple H finished the match with a torn pectoral muscle, and he's headed back to the States for surgery to get it fixed.
Yeah, sorry to hear that.
Yeah, they're saying
man, he's.
Oh, go ahead.
And
Go
that
ahead.
people don't. I'm sorry. Go ahead, buddy.
They said he might miss WrestleMania as well. That's what I wanted to throw in on top of that. Sorry.
No, that's fine. That's fine. We're kind of getting a little bit of a delay, but and that's the thing too. And believe me, I don't take anything away from baseball players or NFL or none of that. But these wrestlers have. I mean, I've been in there when they've torn ACLs. Obviously, you remember when Triple H tore his quad, and if they can get through that match, they will, which is unbelievable. I've had, been in there with guys that have broken their ankles and blown their knee. I mean, it's amazing that they still want to finish that match, not only as a professional, but for the fans. And, that's something you would never see anywhere else. And I was unfortunate. I went through, with the wrestling, 4 shoulder surgeries myself. I kept tearing my rotator cuff. Every time I would come back, it just, I got to go down to Andrews, one of the best, and then I did my other ones up in Chicago with the phenomenal doctor, but it was just a freak thing that I kept, when I'd come back, I'd be ready and take my wear and tear, so you can imagine what these guys go through, and I was just a referee.
Yeah, and it sounds like even as a referee, your body it gets its wear and tear from having to move around, getting up and down, making the counts, doing what you guys do, and you even take your share of bumps at times, actually. And I want to touch on before I touch on this, I want to ask you real quick because I see question in here from a fan. They're asking. This is a 2-part question. From a fan
Sure.
standpoint, just from being a fan, from a fan standpoint, who is your favorite wrestler of all time? And then from a professional standpoint, who is your favorite of all time, like to work with?
Well, I tell you, and the funnest, the talent wise, was talent, but the funniest guy I ever worked in the ring with was Owen Hart, because he had so much fun in there, and it was nonstop laughter. Professional wise, I think hands down class act is the Undertaker. He's such a professional in the ring and outside the ring. He has so much respect for the business. He respects everybody he works with. I don't ever remember him. Just going, yelling at someone just to do it. You know what I mean? He never abused his position. Man, there's so many good ones, but The Rock was unbelievable. Great in the ring and phenomenal outside the ring. He's a phenomenal person, and his success. He's a guy that deserves it. He works his butt off, and the little things that these guys done. I tore my rotator cuff, and I was off for 6 months, so I went back to my old high school and coached football for a year. And The Rock actually went. He didn't have to do this. He made a video for my players on senior night to get them motivated. Made about a 10-minute video, and it was great. And during the video, we were playing a team called the Salt Fork Storm, and he's like, you go out there tonight, and you're playing the Salt Fork the thunder, and he had me say, of course, and I'm like, the storm. And he goes, it don't matter who the hell they're playing. And of course, he didn't say hell. He had some other choice words, but it was a lot of fun. And our kids got a kick out of it. I actually had two seniors that were kind of sitting out. They were a little banged up. And I tell you what, they watched that video. It was about giving it all for the parents that supported you, and you'll never forget this night. And had a couple seniors that got dressed that night and went out and played. We got beat by about 30, but it was still a great night. So, but those two guys, man, it's so hard to pick because, Stone Cold, same thing, class act. I tell you, I roomed with him a lot at the beginning, and he was a great guy. Was Jeff Jarrett. Jeff really took time and taught me a lot about the business, and because I did production, so a lot of my travel was paid for because I just wasn't a referee. And back then the money they were making good money, but not what they're making now. And so Jeff would stay with me a lot, and we would talk, and man, and what a great mind. He's got a great mind for the business, and I'm glad to see he's got his life turned around and doing well, and got the help he needs, which is another great thing with WWE. It don't matter if you worked with them for a week or a year. If you got an addiction and you got a problem, they will push you up in rehab, and I don't think people realize the expense that is, that they don't have to do, but the part that they care about, people that have worked for them. So obviously it's not a secret. Guys like Kurt, who's gotten help, and Jeff Jarrett, and so on and so on. That's a big thing that's turned around in the business. Is the concussion protocol and the rehab and the drug testing, and I mean there's so much that they've done to make this business better and safer. They got doctors that travel on the road, and trainers, and chiropractors, massage therapists. I mean, they really take care of their athletes. It's a great company.
That is great, that they're looking out for their guys like that. That's awesome to hear.
Yeah, oh yeah, because when I first started, guys taping up their own ankles, taping up their own wrists, and getting by through pain, and because it's like anything, it gets better every year, and you get smarter, and you get knowledgeable, and so they keep up speed, and you got to change with the times, and it's like I said, sort of like what's happening in NFL. People don't like it, but you know what? If you don't have your starting quarterback in there, and you're playing the backup, and the scores, 30-3, that's a game you're not going to watch. So they want these $1 million quarterbacks in there to make the game interesting. That's the same with wrestling. You always want your top stars to stay healthy, and so you protect. That's why you don't see guys taking chair shots, to the head, or doing the crazy stuff they used to do, and it's a safety reason. You want these guys to have longevity in their career, and they're getting paid well. You want them to be in the ring performing, and for a fan standpoint, you go out and it's not cheap to go out. And I'll tell you one thing: the WWE used to keep track of was they kept their merchandise. They would know the big concerts, whether Garth Brooks or, Blake Shelton, they would know what they're charging for sure. And they always wanted to stay underneath of what everybody else was doing. Of course, the business has got to make money, but they would, try to keep their tickets. They didn't like raising them. But going back to my point is, you got a fan that takes their family out and they spend $240 on tickets, and that top superstar's not there, that's kind of heartbreaking. So, that's why the business has changed up a little bit too, is, try to keep these guys healthy, and the blood, getting rid of the blood. That started happening right before I left. Someone was busted open. Of course, we had our gloves, and we had to stop the match and bring the doctor in. If they couldn't glue it or stitch it right there ringside, the match was over. And that's one, a safety. Two, sponsorship didn't want to see it. and and you had guys been in business for so long that would work through that, because the old saying was red means green, so blood drew money. You know what I mean? That set up for the next. Oh man, he busted him open. We can't wait to him getting back. Well, that all had to change. And when you had guys that had been in business so long, it was hard to get them to stop a match. They would, the heat of the moment, they're like, get the F off of me. I'm like, look, we got these new rules. You need to, let me back off. And the doctor, and it was hard for these guys to adjust to that, because they're like, no, we're going with this. I'm like, oh, they're telling me my earpiece, we need to get this stopped. So, and unfortunately, with my girls playing volleyball, and I'm with them quite a bit. I don't get to watch the show as much as I used to. I read about it more than anything on the website to keep up to date. So, I don't know if they've had a lot, guys getting busted open lately, or if you guys have picked up on that, watch. That's why they do stop the match, is because, they want to cut down on the blood. I think if you get a major pay-per-view, there's always that. We'll let it a little bit slide if someone gets busted, but
I've noticed that. Like, if it's WrestleMania, it's happened a couple times, they'll kind of let it go. But I did notice, when the rules were first going into play, I'm like, oh, why does the referee got gloves on? Like, I'm thinking to myself, and then it finally caught on afterward. But I totally understand what you mean about the boys in the ring, because it's like JR used to say all the time, when the wrestlers start bleeding, and they see their own blood, it like brings something out in them, and then they just kind of go crazy, and they really start going in the match. And
oh yeah, it was great. I mean, my gosh, Ric Flair, when he would bleed. I mean, you would think he had a hatchet put in his head, and I'm not going to get into the whole blood back then. Obviously when you see it now, it's the hard way. The guy, last. I can't tell you how many years. I've been gone, I think 4 now, 5, and so years before that, they had stopped all that. So when you see a guy getting split open, he's getting busted open the hard way by, actually. And I think probably the worst was that I remember in the last few years was what Brock laid open. Was it Randy Orton that he caught him with those elbows?
Yep, that was at SummerSlam 2016. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean that's what they would call in wrestling, getting busted open the hard way. There's so now, I mean, if you see it, the guy's been accidentally got caught with the fist or an elbow or boot to the nose or what have you. So
I want to touch on something with you, actually, that was going around, when you were in the business. It was one of the most exciting times. I loved when the WWE would do this. They had the Hardcore Championship, and it was the 24/7 rule. And I remember you're the only referee to hold the Hardcore Championship. How did that all come about?
They came to me. They're like, we've had everybody trying to get it. We're going to have you rip your shirt off. And I'm like, hold on, man. You want me to take my shirt off? Sure you want to see that? And I try to stay in decent shape for the most part, but, I didn't want to take my shirt off. Yeah, you're going to take your shirt off and choke them with it and then do this and that. And I'm like, okay. So... yeah, I'll tell you that I've almost forgot about that. That was that was a lot of fun. I ended up Crash ended up giving me a DDT on top of I think it was a pan or something, or maybe a trash can lid or something like. Yeah, so I was blessed to be a part of some real fun bumps. I took Legion of Doom's finish. I took. Chair shot from Triple H, and of course, choke slam many times by Kane and Undertaker, and And the one thing, thank goodness, and I don't know why he wanted to do it, but it was me, Teddy Long, and The Rock. We took on Rikishi and Kane because they wanted to show Rock that he needed to have respect for the referees. So they put him in a match with us, and they told me, you're going to get the stink face tonight from Rikishi. And I'm like, oh, great. And then they said, Teddy, you're going to end up getting chokeslammed by Kane. And Teddy comes to me, and he's like, hey, I want to take the stink face. And I'm like, really? Okay. That's all yours, And, I'm sure because, that was going to be a bigger pop and the exposure on TV. But I'm like, that's all you, buddy. I'll take the choke slam. You can take the butt to the face any night. So Teddy ended up taking the stink face that night.
I remember that match too. I do. Those were some good times.
Oh, a lot of fun. A lot of fun.
I'm looking here. A question just came in, and the question is, have you ever had to tackle a fan, that ended up jumping the barricade and entering the ring?
Twice. Man. I think probably 2 or 3 times during a match. Between matches, probably at more live events, probably 9 or 10 times a drunk fan would get in there. Television, I probably had to do it 2 or 3 times in my career. But at live events, sure enough, during intermission, nobody's in the ring. You get some fan that would jump in and get on the top rope. And, back years ago, you would be able to thump them pretty good. And then it was like we ended up having they have security that actually travels, retired police officers, military that travel with them now. And so we're really told, don't try to, unless it's, a wrestler's in danger or something like that, that security handle it. That way, avoids lawsuits, avoids us getting hurt. But yeah, for a while we got to have a little bit of fun. And luckily, probably 9 out of 10 times the guy was drunk, so you weren't in danger of getting your butt whipped.
Yeah, it was just a matter of getting the tackle and to take him down.
You just take him down, lock him up, and I'm by no means any badass, but I did do some few years of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, so I knew how to at least get a guy down and hold him down, lock him up. But so yeah, but for the most part, it was fans just wanting their 20 seconds of fame. It was very rare that. Now I know it's happened a few times. I know Mike Yoda was in on one of them when a fan jumped in. I don't know if he went after Hunter or one of them, but that gets dangerous. It's not only it's dangerous for the talent that's in there, it's dangerous for a fan because you don't want to be getting hit by a guy that weighs 290 pounds. You know what I mean? So
exactly,
you really don't. So, but yeah, and that slowed down a lot with they now security is so beefed up, but more years ago when they got in that bad habit. Remember when they were throwing stuff in the ring all the time? It started down in WCW with Scott Hall and Kevin Nash. They were encouraging.
Yeah,
we went through that phase too, and that got bad and ugly. And a couple guys got, because back then they didn't check bags. So we would have guys throwing little fifth of whiskeys, bottles of whiskeys in the ring and everything else. Because you get away with bringing that stuff in. It's a different ballgame now, with everything that's has happened in this world. It's more security and all that beefed up. But yeah, we had some crazy moments. A lot of fun.
Oh, everything gets checked now when you go into these arenas.
Yeah, thank goodness. Because you just never know. It's how I am with my kids and stuff. We live in a small town. And I'm like, still, you never know. You got to be careful whatever you do. So.
And I'm thinking back to this is actually a big part, big moment in the company history, and I know you were with them at this time as well. The first ever brand extension draft. When all that went down, and they split up, Raw and SmackDown into two different rosters, and all that was going on. What was it like for you? Did they tell you guys ahead of time like where you were going, or was it really legit? Like you're sitting back there in the locker room, and then pretty much when you find out where you're going, that's where you end up.
Um, the very first draft they did, they didn't tell us at all. After that, I think the refs were because say if we had 8 refs, at least 4 of us, 5 of us did production too. So we kind of had to know our schedule where we were going to, be traveling to, because we always had to fly in a day before. So because we started loading at 8 in the morning. So after the first draft, none of us knew that was on the up and up. Every draft since then, the talent themselves didn't know, but we knew because we had to have our travel made for, production wise where we were going, so.
And what was that like for you? Was it better for you when you were just on one brand instead of having to work Raw and SmackDown? I know they put you on SmackDown, so basically you had to go to SmackDown and obviously do the SmackDown live shows. Was it easier for working as far as that goes, and like spending time with family, or was it pretty much the same?
Pretty much the same. Yeah, pretty much the same. I always liked being on Raw just because it was uh, live. I liked being on the live show, and that aspect of it. But as far as talent wise, there was great talent on both shows to work with. But no, it wouldn't. Actually, it got kind of a pain because it didn't change my time on the road because I would still work Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday, and then for a while there they were doing SmackDown live event shows on Monday nights, and then we do TV on Tuesday. So we didn't, they were running, which I always thought was kind of weird. Monday or Raw was your biggest show, and then we would be running a town for SmackDown, but on the other end of it, you can't have these guys sitting in a hotel not making any money. So they were running live events. I don't think that lasted too long, if I remember, to running the live events on Monday nights, because then half the time they'd end up, although they do the split brand, they'd end up bringing a guy over anyways on a special occasion. So
Yeah.
yeah, so.
I'm looking here, Jack, and this is one question that I definitely wanted to get into with you, and I got a fan that asked it here, and if you'd like to elaborate on this, let me know. Now, what was the backstage vibe like before the Montreal Screwjob versus after the Montreal Screwjob, and also, would you have done it if you were approached to do it instead of Earl Hebner?
Um, I would say honestly, there was tension all day. You obviously no one knew that was going to happen, but you're wondering, are these guys going to go out there and get in a shoot fight? Because they had been into it backstage before that, an actual legit fight that got broke up pretty quick. But so you could feel the tension all day. It was very, very quiet, which is for a pay-per-view very unusual because usually everything is a lot of chaos. Um, Afterwards, it was very because Brett was very well liked. Brett was a quiet guy. People misjudge Brett if you didn't know Brett personal level, you kind of thought he was standoffish, that he thought he was better, but actually he was just a quiet guy. He'd always show up late. That was just his thing. He kind of be off by himself in the locker room. But, that was just his personality. You know, and half the time his music would start and he'd still be back there lacing up his boots and they're screaming, "Would you get Brett? Would you get him out here?" And it's like, he's going to come out here when he's ready. No matter how many times we yell at him. And, but after that happened, there was a lot of, even myself, I was, upset to see that. I was upset for Brett because, it was hurt and he was leaving, which, all sucked all together. And he was always good to me. Brett was, had always treated me well. And that's how I judge people, is how you treat me. A lot of people, I'll tell you a story after this, but, as far as would I have done it? Yeah, Brett, don't quote me on it. Brett was leaving, say, 3 years, $5 million. I still have a family to take care of. So if Vince comes to me and says, "I need you to do this," I love you, Brett, but you're taking off for millions of dollars. I got a family to take care of too, and so yeah, I would have done it. Would it suck to be part of that? Yeah, but you got to look after yourself. I mean, and that's the bottom line. A lot of people were pissed at Earl and said, but you know what? Earl had to go home and pay bills like the rest of us. You know what I mean? He had, a daughter to take care of and a son, and so you got to look at that aspect. Is I'm sure it was an enjoyable moment for him when he got asked that, but Brett was leaving for a lot of money. And so you got to do what you got to do. And so, yeah, I mean, hands down, there's no doubt about it. Would I have done what if I was asked to do that? I mean, and I don't want to get into the whole thing, but I kind of still to this day, it's like, I mean, there's different reasons I understand, but you're given that title because they think you can carry the company and you're the man at the time. You didn't legit go out and whip someone's butt for real. You know what I mean? Vince picked you to do it. So if it's that time and they want you to pass it on, and I don't want to get into the whole argument with anybody, that's my personal opinion. If Vince says, "Hey, here's the belt, we're going to put it on you. We want you to lead this company," and then when it's time for someone else to take it, that's just something you do. You turn that favor. Yep. Okay. Thank you.
It's a time-honored
tradition. That's how I just feel about it. I think it could have been handled a lot different all the way around, but that was part of the business. Vince was protecting his business. The last thing, whether he says he wouldn't have or would have, but can you imagine him showing up at WCW with the championship belt? It would have buried. I mean, how can you? Say this guy's your champ and your title's down there and with Ted Turner. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And I was telling you a story about how people judge people, and Hogan's had his moments where people this or do it like. But I'll tell you a quick story about Hogan, one that I will always remember, and how I judged this guy. We were at the Hall of Fame, and it was the one where Brett went into the Hall of Fame. Okay, when he got inducted, and the next day I had Vince McMahon and Shawn Michaels match. That was a big deal for me. I was thrilled to death to have that match. And as I'm sitting there at the Hall of Fame, I'm with my wife at the time, since divorce. I get, dizzy. I'm sicker than a dog. I get taken outside. I'm sweating. I don't know if it's food poisoning or what. I'm getting sick. They put me in a car, get me back to the hotel. And at this point, I'm having trouble seeing. That's how bad my head's pounding. And who's coming in? Hogan. He comes with me and my wife and the doctor, comes in the elevator with us, the back elevator, comes all the way up to my room, helps me get my suit off, gets me laid down. The doctor comes in, checks on me, gives me a shot for nausea and stuff, but Hogan didn't have to do that. I mean, I was just, one of the referees, and he went out of his way to get 15 minutes of his time when he probably had all kinds of stuff to do, just coming back from the Hall of Fame, and walked me all the way up from there. And I'll never forget that. And I said, you know what? That meant a lot to me. And at the time to my wife, that here's a guy that biggest name in wrestling is taking 15 minutes out of his time for me that felt like crap, So, that's why you never judge a book by its cover.
Oh, exactly. And this was in Chicago, correct?
Is that where it was?
If it was
you know what?
If it was Vince McMahon and Shawn Michaels, if that was the match you were working the next night, that was at WrestleMania 22 in Chicago, and I remember the headliner at the Hall of Fame that night that you're talking about is Bret Hart. He was the headliner.
Yep, that was it. Yeah. Thank goodness for you to help me with these days. And I remember, I think Shawn came off, and Vince had the trash can over, and Shawn dropped that elbow on him, if I remember correctly. I mean, and it came down hard on him.
Oh, yeah.
I tell you what, and not just because, I worked for the guy, but I tell you, Vince is one tough SOB, and at his age, the guy is a machine. You wouldn't understand how much he loves the business, and how much time he puts into it. That guy is almost unhuman. I mean, he's a machine. The way he goes, doesn't sleep. I'll tell you a quick story. My old boss, he told me it's Christmas Day. He gets a call. My boss at the time, he's no longer with the company. He gets a call from Vince. He's like, Steve, got this idea. He's like, Vince, it's Christmas. He goes, well, damn it, I'm working. He's like, okay, because Steve would do the production end of it. So, Vince came up with some idea, and I remember my boss telling me, Christmas Day, he gets a call from Vince. Vince has this idea, so, that's what's neat about these businessmen and the things they do, because Vince could have retired 30 years ago, you know what I mean? But he loves it so much. And I think at this point, he's made enough money, but, Vince would do it without taking a dime, because he loves the wrestling business. And I tell you, that'll be a sad day when he walks away or something happens, but, the business is in good hands with Triple H, and like I said, these other guys that are helping out, I don't think they'll miss a beat. There'll never be another Vince McMahon for sure, but I think the business will keep on going for sure.
Oh yeah, no doubt. I just thought of something that'll be a great thing to touch on with you. Especially since you said earlier, that you have two daughters. This is actually, a couple things that, a couple questions I could ask, actually. With the women's evolution now, because women's wrestling changing the way that it has is just amazing. And I know when you were, when you worked in it, especially back in the day, I remember when, when you'd be refereeing the women's matches or the bra and panties matches or the lingerie pillow fights and all that, and then the girls would be going at it and they'd, bump into you and you guys be rolling in the ring and stuff, and they'd roll on top of you, and then Jerry the King Lawler would be throwing some smart comment. He's like, man, I wish I could be referee Jack Doan right now. And then Michael Cole's like, you kidding? I wish I was Jack Doan. And then the King's like, everybody probably wishes they were Jack Doan.
Yeah, they got to do that roll spot. I think it was with Tori and Trish, or one of them, or Sable maybe.
Yeah, it was one of them. I don't know. It was either Tori Stacy or Trish and somebody or Sable. Yeah, it was one, like one of those four women, or I should say two of those four. I remember when you did that spot, and
Yeah.
going from that. Well, first off, talk if you want, if you'd like to answer some stuff on it. What was that like for you working the women's matches back in the day, and what do you think of how far the women's division has come today, and how does that even make you feel as a father that loves professional wrestling, and a father that has two daughters.
Um, I definitely. I don't know if you probably remember. I got caught on there for a while. They started having me do the women's, and then it almost became like a running joke every week. They just gave me the women's matches so I got known as the referee that did them, and I enjoyed it because they. I mean, obviously it's come so far, but back then. It was. I mean, it's not an insult to him. It was more just the way the business was, more TNA than anything. And these girls were getting better and better, and to be part of that, um, part of that division that girls would come in like Trish Stratus and lead, and to watch them get better and better and more athletic and more airtime, and they're going from 3-minute matches to 5 to 9, and now so I enjoyed it personally. It was rewarding that we'd go out there and put on a good match, and those girls would have that opportunity. So I enjoyed every bit of it. And now, I mean, the athleticism that these girls have it's unbelievable, and the you get their own show and pay-per-view and the title. So but I mean, it's like anything. You've got to expand, and you've got to grow, and you got to give the fans something different. And so that's it is. It was neat to be a part of, watching it slowly, grow at the time, and then now, those girls. I mean, they put on a heck of a show, and the talent that they have, athleticism is really unique, and it's neat to see some second generation, third generation type talent coming in there on the women's end. I mean, you've seen it all along with the guys, second generation, third generation, but now to see these females coming in, it's really unique to see that. I worked with, their dads and stuff like that.
Oh, it's got to be an amazing feeling.
Yeah, definitely.
I got let's see. I see two more questions that came in from fans here. One of them is, did you ever take a dip in Vince's pool? And then they go on to say, I'm sure he will get that joke. LOL.
Actually, no, I don't get the dip in his pool.
Yeah, I don't get it either. I was thinking, all right, maybe it's something that you'll know. Because I didn't get it either. Did you ever take a dip in Vince's pool? I don't know. If you could clarify that, please, please put a follow up to it, and I'll pass it along to Jack.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not trying to avoid the question. I honestly don't know what that meant. I didn't take a dip in his pool, but I've got my butt chewed out many times from him.
Oh, Rocky. His name is Rocky. He just put back right now. I've heard from many wrestlers that Vince likes to push people in his pool.
Oh yeah, I have no, but I've witnessed, and he'll do it with when they have their wallets, suits on, watches out. Back in the day, yeah, but no, he never got me. But I've seen many guys get thrown in with having everything on, watches and wallets and suits, and yeah. So
Also, that's
yeah.
why Shane got him back. That's why Shane got him back and pushed him in his pool the one time.
But
Now I
Vince
get
is he's got a heck of a sense of humor. He really enjoyed life and had a lot of fun pulling pranks on people. But did you say there was another question?
Yeah, another question here is how does it feel to talk to Vince? And is Vince as intimidating as he seems?
Um, to be honest, Vince could be very down to earth, very businesslike, very professional. Um, but there's still that, and it's not a bad thing on his end, but and it's weird to say, but there's like an aura when he walks in the building. It's like this glow around him when he walks. I mean, he's that intimidating of a guy that, and he doesn't, come off that way. He doesn't act that way, but it is he's got that. He's got the it factor, when he comes walking in. I mean, you just see people don't even like look at him in the eye, but the thing is, he's very humble guy and very nice guy because, I've had, like everyone, issues or problems and I've been able to go to him and talk to him and he's human like the rest of us. But he's got that intimidating factor. You definitely don't want to be screwing up a match and have him because you will get your ass chewed. Sorry about that, but I mean, you will get chewed out, and because he expects the best out there and expects the best out of you. So you take it, you don't take it personal, and 10 minutes later it's forgotten about. But yeah, he very intimidating guy.
I could imagine. I could imagine because he does really have that presence. He does.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I'm looking here. Oh, another question is how was it refereeing a match between Kane and The Rock, but this person forgot which Raw it took place at. They can't remember, but they know you refereed a match between The Rock and Kane.
I hard to remember because I did that match so many times. Um, yeah, honestly, it's hard to remember that one. I mean, obviously you got two big guys and two athletic guys. I'm sure they put on a heck of a match. As far as that end of it.
I remember, just thinking about The Rock and Kane. I remember a match that you did between The Rock and The Undertaker on a Christmas Day edition of Raw. It was the year 2000, and I believe it was in like Chattanooga, Tennessee, or something like that.
What was that? I'm sorry.
It was a Christmas Day edition of Raw in the year 2000. It was The Rock and The Undertaker. I believe that was the main event match, and it was in Chattanooga, Tennessee. I remember you refereed that one. That was actually Taker's first match against The Rock since he made his return as the American Badass character.
Oh yeah.
That was a good one. The match with that's what I wanted to touch on because we touched on Taker and Kane earlier at Mania. Um, Taker and Diesel. Taker and Diesel.
Was that at
Um,
Madison Square Garden?
that was Arrowhead Pond,
Arrowhead. Okay.
WrestleMania 12. And I remember there was a point in that match when, Diesel hit, like, I think 3 jackknives on The Undertaker. And I believe, if I remember correctly, I believe when he was just standing over Taker, you kind of walked up to him and You kind of told him like, oh, like, well, what are you doing? Because he was just standing there and like he wasn't pinning him, and I guess you were trying to tell him, like, quit beating on him, pin him, and then he would pin, you'd go to pin him, and the Undertaker would kick out, and that was a great match. That went along with the Shawn Michaels Bret Hart Iron Man match.
Yeah, oh, yeah. I think I took was that one or the one in Montreal? I took a punch from one of them in that match. I don't know if it was the Iron Man or the one in Montreal. I can't remember.
It might have been, you know what? The Iron Man. I'm not sure. I can't remember if any of the other referees came down. I think in Montreal, all the refs were down there because I remember Vince and Commissioner Slaughter was down there. Patterson and Briscoe were down there. They pretty much had everyone down there.
Yeah.
So that was probably the one.
Yeah.
But the fan put the question back to me about The Rock and Kane. They said what they were originally talking about, you and Teddy Long and The Rock and Kane and Rikishi. Yeah, which you touched on that earlier.
Yeah. That was because the Rock was disrespecting the refs. So his punishment was he had to work a match with me and Teddy, and to make it basically almost like a handicap for him. And that's when Teddy begged to take the stink face. I'm like, you got it, buddy.
How did it feel to get chokeslammed by Kane?
You know what? Because as referees, we never train or practice. You never rehearse that or practice it. So, I mean, they always say tuck your chin, blow your air out. But when you're up there and your adrenaline's going, I mean, it knocked the wind out of me. They're telling you, okay, tuck your chin. When you come down, kind of let your elbows and hands hit and do this and that. And I'm like, I just want to walk out of the ring, so whatever. So, usually it was just getting the wind, felt like getting the wind knocked out of you. So.
Yeah, I could imagine, especially with a big guy like Kane.
Yeah.
If you ever, and this is one of my personal questions, because WWE, they always have to do stuff, as far as the Hall of Fame, every year it's gonna happen, and there's so many people that are a part of it, and new people get inducted every year. I'm sure. I'm expecting down the line, guys like probably Earl Hebner, Mike Chioda. I'm sure they'll get their call, eventually down the line. And, I can't help but ask if you ever got the call to be a part of the WWE Hall of Fame or to be inducted for your contribution to the business. What would that mean to you to get that honor if it were to ever happen?
Oh, it would mean everything. One would mean they respected and appreciated what I contributed, in the ring, my years on the road, sacrifices that we all did. And, to me, it's a respect thing. I mean, that would, heck, it would mean the world to me if they just called me up and say, hey, we want you to come back on the road and ref. So I'll take that over the Hall of Fame, to be honest. But no, that would be a tremendous honor as far as that goes. I don't know, I think that day might come, but, it's weird that it hasn't. So I don't know if they ever will put the referee in the Hall of Fame, to be honest with you. That they always respect him, but, we got to the point, I don't know if you remember, Jim Ross would say the referee's name all the time. Referee Jack Doan, referee Mike Doan, this and that. And they put an end to that. They just wanted to be known as refs. They didn't want us to be known as like, characters, or just that we were the ref out there. And so I don't know if they'll ever give that type of respect to put someone in or not. Sure, there's many that are deserving of it. Many that were part of, a lot of changes that went on in the business. But I would be surprised if that happens. And maybe I'll be totally wrong. And the next couple of years will be one put in each year. But I just think it's not a bad thing but we were just looked at as the third man in the ring. A thing I learned when I first got in this business was I was told, and I remember from day one, you're not one of the boys. You never will be one of the boys. So don't act like one of the boys. And that's basically is fans aren't paying tickets to see you. So don't do anything stupid. Don't get yourself in trouble. Don't act like you're bigger than what you are. And I took that to heart, because, I'm blessed to be in that business, blessed to be around talent. But, there's not a fan paying to go see a referee. And it's true. And it's not a disrespect to refs or nothing like that. I mean, obviously, without a ref in there, the whole thing doesn't make sense. But, you everybody has their role in the company, and you got to know where your role is. And I had no problem with that, because at one time I was one of 6 guys doing it. We only had 6 refs, and to be blessed to do that, I mean, it's incredible. I mean, I've been to every country and several times a year. Go to Australia, I think I was telling you, Japan, and through Mexico and European tours. And I mean, I got to go and get paid to do it. That was the best part. I got paid to do what I loved. If you can find a job that you go to every day and love, I mean, you got life's pretty good, and that's how it was. I was doing something I loved and got paid to do it. So
you can't ask for anything more than that.
No, not at all. But so that was the thing, as I was telling you about, you're not one of the boys. It's basically, keep your nose clean, stay out of trouble. And I think the best compliment I personally got, every ref's got their own little niche, like Kyo would always wear the wristband, and this guy would do this, and Charles likes to kind of oversell the bumps with his hair, and my thing was, I had, when I was first breaking in and learning the ref and stuff, I had one of the guys in the company says, we were friends, and he went to Jack Lanza, was an agent at the time. He's like, how's Jack doing in there? And he goes, he's doing great. You know why? He said, why? He said, because I never see him in the match. And basically, I worked the 3 sides and stayed out of the camera, stayed out of the guy's way, and which a ton of referees do now, but you don't try to put yourself in that spotlight or get in the camera, because your role is to be that ref. You're not to be the show off or the grab the attention, and that was a good compliment I got from Jack Lanza, who obviously was in the business forever, and he's like, I don't see him when I'm watching the match, so I remembered him, and good advice is, obviously you get in the corner just time you need to get in there and do your thing, but other than that, people are at home and people there to watch the talent. So
There's Jack, there's so much support for you, here tonight, and so many people with great questions for you, and it's pretty remarkable. Like you really are remembered throughout the business, and
I tell you, and Down, please thank very much. That's very touching to me. My kids are 17 and 14 now, my daughters, and I would love nothing else for them to be able to watch me do it one more time, have that one match, because they were 12, and my other one was 9 at the time, and they didn't, if we did local shows, they got to go, but for them at their age now, because they still have their friends that find out, and then
they're kind of excited that I used to do that. So I would love to be able to do one last one for them. And but I do appreciate the fans and the support. And I mean, it's very touching to me, especially after the years I've been away, to have that. So I appreciate that more than anything. And I had it was really neat. I had one of them I think got yanked down from WWE because of the rights, but there's a couple of videos that some fans made to the music actually, and have I had streams of tears coming down my face. But they put two videos of a bunch of my matches to music, and it was very cool. And for someone to take their time out to do that was unbelievable, and it was very touching. And I got to. My girls got to see it, and actually probably to this day, if I turn it on and watch it again, I'd probably break down because it's like anything. It's business. People wonder why Brett Favre stayed around. Oh my gosh, he's back. Because when you're done, you're done. You can't go back. And so I understood Brett Favre not wanting to leave the game because when you give it up, that's forever. You got to find something else to do in life. And so I kind of, people give him a hard time, but it's like, no, you understand when you're done, you'll never do it again. Not to say that I couldn't get in the ring and still do it again because I've seen some of the rest they got. I'm just kidding. They got some talent out there, but no, I would love to go back in a heartbeat. Not only financially for my family, but because I loved it. Like I said, you find a job you love, man, life's pretty good.
Did you ever consider being a wrestler when you first got into the business, or was being a referee always your passion?
I trained a few times with some guys, they get there early, and it was just something I thought longevity, I'm 5'7", I always back then weighed around, 170, 180. I knew there was nothing that would, you could do, maybe a 2-year gimmick, 2-year little run doing something. But, unless you're a Rey Mysterio, guys my size don't last long in this business. So I knew in the long run, I could referee, even to this day, I'm in good enough shape. I could still referee and always do my production, setting up. So I knew where the longevity was going to be. And so that's what, I stayed on that path. I would get in there and goof around, but if you're not doing it every day, taking bumps, you go out there and you take a few bumps, I mean, you're sore. I remember being like a train wreck the next day trying to get out of bed. I'm like, man, forget this.
Would you ever consider training like a ref, for the WWE? Like, I'm sure the referees got to go through training. Would you ever consider doing training for WWE?
Well, I would do anything that they would ask if given a chance or given a call. My release was still kind of confusing to me. Really thought I was still in my prime. I was 42 at the time, 43, 42. Felt I was still, I could have been in better shape. Did go through some surgeries. It was kind of a little confusing for me to have my contract released. So I still to this day really kind of don't know what happened. But yeah.
Back in 2013, I'm just thinking. Back in 2013, if I remember correctly, there were a couple people that got released there, and it seemed confusing. Like I remember timekeeper Mark Yaten.
Yep.
He was there
Who had
for
been there,
over 30 years.
Been there longer than me.
Yeah, and he got released. I mean, it was a very confusing time. Like when I heard of people that were let go, and I didn't understand it either.
Yeah. You know, I don't comment too much on it, and I'll be honest, the first couple of years I didn't even do podcasts or talk to anybody because, you know, I didn't feel sorry for myself. But I was just a little bitter, and I didn't, you know, much as I was blessed, I never wanted to say anything in a negative way towards the company, but I just didn't quite get, you know, why I'm still not there, you know, because I still feel, you know, to this day I could go out there and do it. So you know, and I didn't want to, you know, because you have to take the good with the bad. You know, I, you know, 22 good years. So why would I never understood wrestlers, you know, if something really goes bad, but wrestlers that get released or want released, and then they go and shame the company and run it down. It's like, you know, in this business, never say never. You can always get brought back. They always come up to gimmick. And the aspect of they put you on TV, they paid you well, and why would you just go and trash them? I never understood that the guys
Exactly.
do that.
And I'm just gonna tell the fans here real quick, Jack. All your questions, guys. Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm probably just gonna answer the other two that we have because I'm sure Jack. I'm sure you probably gotta, you know, you got to get ready for work, and I'm sure you got things, you know, that you got to do tomorrow. So I don't want to keep you extremely late.
Yeah, I have to actually be up at 4 in the morning. So
Yeah. So everybody, you know, if you got, you know, whatever questions you have, you know, before we move on with the show, I mean, Jack, would you ever consider maybe, you know, after the holidays, sometime next year, maybe coming back
oh,
to
anytime,
do
anytime,
another
love to.
show?
Of course, definitely,
All right. Well, guys,
definitely.
there you have it. I will take these last two questions for Jack over here. But anybody else that has any other questions, keep them in mind for when I have Mr. Jack Doan back on the show. But for right now, the questions uh, that a couple fans have left, and then I'll get into one more that I have personally, and we'll wrap this up.
Okay.
One question from a fan here is: does a referee have to be involved in the practice before a live show with other WWE superstars?
No,
Oh,
nope.
okay. Let's see. For a ref, let's see. Would you let your daughters be a part of the WWE Ref Association? Like, if they wanted to follow in your footsteps and get into the business, because now, you know, WWE does have some female referees, like how they work the Mae Young Classic, NXT.
Um, I just being on the road and away from your family. I mean, I would never. I would allow my daughters to choose to do whatever, you know, is their dreams and what they want to do. But I think a long career and something else would be more of my liking. I always told them anything medical field. Obviously, we're always going to need that. Law enforcement, not so much being on the street, but you know, I got one kind of interested in forensics science. So something on the longevity. You know, I'd hate for. I mean, God bless them, the talent, but you know, if you look at the overall careers, almost like in NFL players, I mean, you might have 2 or 3 good years and get released, and then you have to find something else, you know, unless you're that, you know, have that special it factor. But overall, if you look at the roster and, you know, the turnovers, and so if that was something that they really wanted to do, oh, of course, I would support them 100%. I just think, and God bless the talent that's doing it, it's a hard business, very rewarding, the travel, being financially, you know, taken care of, being on TV, which could lead into other stuff, you know, acting and, or, you know, whatever. So yeah, I would definitely, but, they would have to. I mean, it's something you'd have to be 110% a full goal, or it, it would be tough. I would support it, but I would kind of like them to have something where they could have a 20-year career, 30-year career working out.
Mm-hmm. I understand.
And they're my daughters. I wouldn't want to see them because this business, you do get hurt. I think one of them just had a bad knee injury, if I'm not mistaken. One of the girls here recently.
Oh yeah, Tegan Knox in the Mae Young Classic
Yeah,
actually out
yeah.
of work.
And I think Bliss just went through a concussion.
Yep.
And so so that part, they're my babies. I don't want to see them hurt.
Yeah. No.
Now
No.
my 14-year-old could my 17-year-old, she's a sweetheart, great athlete. My 14-year-old, she's pretty tough. She's like a little bulldog like me, and so her I wouldn't worry about as much. She could handle her own. But so no, I would support anything they wanted to do.
And and I understand that, and I'm looking here, Jack, and one of the fans that you answered all their questions. He says, "Well, thanks for answering our questions, Jack, and thank you for everything that you do, and we hope to see you and hear from you again. And God bless."
I appreciate it. Thank you very much. And
And
I've been blessed in so many ways. So.
And as far as my questions, the last part of my questions, we talked on the phone, and we actually talked about this both times that we talked on the phone prior to the interview. The slide at WrestleMania 18.
Did you find it?
You know what? I actually, I haven't been able to look it up because I'm sitting here like when you watch the interview, you'll see me looking up, and that's because I'm looking up over my computer, watching Raw. So I couldn't really get because I don't have two TVs in here, so I couldn't go on the network and specifically find it. I wish I could have, but I've been keeping my eyes off of Raw because believe it or not, as soon as Raw ends, I gotta hit the airways again for everybody and do a review on it.
Oh, okay.
But the slide at WrestleMania 18 with it was after the Rock and Hogan match, and that's when Nash and Hall came down and started beating on Hulk Hogan, right? And then the Rock came down to make the save, but before the Rock came down to make the save, you got involved, right?
I can't remember that whole aspect. I know I slid in to make a referee took a bump. I slid all the way in. I did like the 1-2, and Kevin Nash dropped an elbow on me and about literally crushed all my ribs. I mean, he dropped it hard. He brought all 300 pounds. But I had a long, the entrance of WrestleMania is so long, so I'm in a dead sprint. And the only thing I'm thinking is don't catch that bottom rope and shatter your nose. But I end up sliding, looked like a penguin on ice, and slid almost completely across the whole ring. So that was pretty. It actually got talked about quite a bit, so people enjoyed it. I had a bunch of people send me the video of it. So.
Are the ring ropes really as hard as like like JR used to describe, like how
they are tight.
Yeah, because he's like, those ropes aren't, they're not loose. He's like, they're tight and they're like steel cables. And, he used to even add like these facts about the ring. And yeah, I was curious, is it really that hard, like they described?
They are. They will leave welts on your body until your body gets conditioned to them. Yeah. So, all right. Hey, I got to get running here. I got to get some stuff done But I appreciate your time.
Hey.
Definitely appreciate all the fans' questions.
Jack, I appreciate it. Thank you for sticking here with us. And one more quick question, if I may.
Yeah.
If you got a chance to, because the reason why I'm asking this is because of how you spoke of, you would do anything, if they asked you to come back or do one more match or whatever have you. So, if you had a chance to come back and do one more match, and you had your choice of what match that you would want to, officiate, I'm assuming it would probably be at WrestleMania, because that's everybody's biggest
Yeah.
venue that they like to be a part of. But if you were able to choose one dream match, between the guys that are around today, which match would you want to referee? How would you, your last match to go out as? Which one would you want to choose?
Um, I think a great match would be AJ Styles and Shawn Michaels to end my career.
Oh, that is a great one.
Yeah. Yeah. Because one, I've never worked with AJ, but I love his style. And two, Shawn, even at his age now, could still go out there and put on a show. So, that would be, obviously I could say, oh, The Rock and this and that, but I think those two guys could put on. I think they could tell a great story. I think not only did they have the talent, I think the story that they would tell would be great.
Oh, I could imagine that would be a fantastic match.
Okay, hey, I gotta wrap this up because got some stuff to get done here at the house.
Oh, no problem, no problem. Sorry if I kept you a little overtime. The questions, they just kept coming.
Hey, don't forget to send me that link to the show.
Yes, I will. As soon as it automatically, renders and uploads to YouTube and processes, once I wrap it up on here, I will send it to your Facebook Messenger.
Okay, yeah, our 45-minute interview went 2 hours, so that was a good show.
Yeah, and notice too, the
No,
questions never stopped.
hey, I tell you, honestly, I enjoyed it, and I appreciate you getting a hold of me, and I love doing this, and I look forward to being able to do it again. It's been honestly a thrill for me tonight, and my daughter was in the car for about an hour of the show listening, so you made my night, so I appreciate it.
Hey, Jack, and you know what? Thank you so much. You also made my night. Every time I get behind this microphone, because I'm used to doing the reviews, and covering the product and giving my real unscripted opinion. This is really what I want my show to be right here. And anytime I get behind this microphone to interview anybody, that's been involved with the business, I mean, it really does make my dream come true, every time. And for somebody like me, that had to struggle with a disability, and I never could have wrestled in the ringside to think of some way how I could try to be involved with the business somehow, and podcasting is the way to do it. And, for somebody like you that, that accepted the invitation to come on and, participate and be a part of the show and help me make my dreams come true on this journey, thank you. And thank you for all your contributions to the professional wrestling business and for all the memories that you gave us, on TV over the years. And I really appreciate it.
You got it.
Uh,
Anytime, definitely.
all right, Jack, and then I
Uh,
look forward to having you back on the show. I will, the holidays are coming up. So once the holidays pass, and we get into the new year, I'll send you a message, and hopefully we could have you back on. Everybody would love to have you, and they're already putting that they can't wait to hear you on here again.
cool. Hey, remember Royal Rumble's coming up. You never know. Maybe I'll run into the Rumble.
Yeah, let's hope.
I'll run in and get ran out by the security. So, hey, well, you have a good night. I appreciate it.
You too, Jack. Thank you again
Thanks,
so much.
buddy. God bless you. Bye-bye.
Bye. All right, ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. There you have it. Referee Jack Doan, WWE referee Jack Doan. What a great, great show. Honestly, this is at the top of one of my best interviews that I've done, and a big thank you to Jack. Truly a class act, and one of the best guys around. And thank you guys for all of your support and your questions to Jack. And hey, Lisa, definitely hats off to Jack. Jack is awesome. And thank you guys also for the support that you've shown me through this. And honestly, I would much rather do this anytime than sit here and watch Raw. Actually, I have been watching Raw, though. So, don't worry. The review will be coming once the show ends. I'm gonna, get everything ready like I usually do. I've been watching. That's why you see me looking up the whole show. But I've been watching, so your Raw review will still be coming. And, so keep your eye out for that. We're not done yet tonight. But before we get out of here, let me turn it on over to NXT Superstar Mr. EC3 Ethan Carter III, and then I'll tell you what I got left coming up, and then we'll get out of here, guys. So, first off, here's EC3, and I'll be right back, ladies and gentlemen. And, also, I'll tell you about the scheduling for the week that I have coming up as well. We got Raw review tonight, but I'll also tell you what I got coming up for the rest of the week. So, that'll all be coming up next. Here's EC3, guys. I'll be right back.
Hello, this is EC3 of TNA Wrestling, and you are so very fortunate because you are watching Beyond the Ring with Big T.
Alright, guys. Alright, so, what I got here, let me see here. What I got is, Monday, which is today, worked out that special surprise interview with WWE referee Jack Doan. And, tonight, actually, Monday Night Raw review. Tomorrow night, you're going to get your SmackDown Live review. Wednesday, you guys are going to get NXT review mixed in with NXT UK and 205 Live, because now the Mae Young Classic is over. And then, what else are we going to have? On Wednesday also, WWE News and Rumors Report. So, plenty of good stuff, guys. And I hope that you will enjoy, you will join me for it and be a part of it. But most importantly, I got to do my usual plugs. Make sure, if you want to continue hearing great interviews like this, like you just heard with Jack Doan, make sure that you guys leave your likes on the videos, because the likes are very important. It helps push these videos to the top in YouTube search engines, so please do that. Make sure that you also leave your comments. You left plenty of comments here in the live chat, but any other things you guys got, or just if you want to say what you thought of the show, once the replay process is on YouTube, make sure that you leave a comment there. And most importantly, guys, please subscribe. Hit that subscribe button. It's absolutely free to do so. It doesn't cost you nothing. And you will be part of the #1 wrestling talk show on the entire internet today. And you'll get, like I said, all my review content and also great interviews like what we just got here with Mr. Jack Doan. And I'll tell you, this is definitely one of my favorites. This is definitely, I would say, in my top 5 all-time best interviews that I've ever done. So thank you to Jack for that. And guys, thank you for your love and support. Yeah, Rocky, you're right, man. Jack is awesome. Jack is absolutely awesome, and I look forward to having him back sometime in 2019, in early 2019. So I'll definitely get in touch with him, and we'll see when we can get him back on. But again, thank you to Mr. Jack Doan. Awesome interview. And guys, I will see you later on tonight for the WWE Monday Night Raw review and results. So, See you next time. Yes, there will be a next time. And don't forget us, and we won't forget you. And if you want the best for all of your professional wrestling needs, always remember to think beyond the ring with Big T. And last but not least, finally, guys, I am your host, Big T, and I will see you at the matches. Take care. I'll see you all for Monday Night Raw review tonight. And thank you again to Mr. Jack Doan for this awesome interview. I love you all, and we'll talk to you later, guys, for Monday Night Raw review. See you later. I love you all. Good night, everybody.